I'm in the whānau room in hospital. I'll just shut the door just because it makes all the difference to sound. Oh look, meeting in progress, you're enter. Yeah, that's definitely what's happening here. Just because I'm uploading things, but I've also got to, I just need to put a bit of a narrative with it, and I've got limited technology here. I give too much information because there are a lot of predatory people out there, and they come in and out of my life, and then I just sort of accrue them. So I don't particularly want to let everybody know everything, but it's probably more of an urge than a policy to just sort of put everything out into the open. But of course people use those things to plan their next manoeuvres against me. It's not paranoia. Again, I don't deal in that kind of stuff, because people who talk about people being paranoid are those people who suddenly have amnesia about the Crimes Act and the Harassment Act and the evil things they see on the news, and any moral standpoints they have, or any feelings about victims or perpetrators they have. So again, I just do that disclaimer just because I'm not, I don't deal in that, and if you're going to deal in that, you can just fuck off. And the thing is that I get nasty comments every now and then, and I just delete them. That's all I do. People who leave nasty comments are of no interest to me whatsoever. I block them only if not blocking them puts them in my path. Otherwise they're free to lurk around, but I do try to cut down on the inessential, and trolls and other horrible people are not good uses of my time. I think that I just sort of so crisis resolution that I've seen. So every time, as I've said to people, I don't go into hospital every time I try to calm myself. And people, there's a lot of people who are quite stupid. Most people are stupid. It's, my dirty secret is that I think most people are stupid. I've encountered this so often that because they see 100% of what they see, which is a tautology, you can't see 60% of what you see. You can only see, it has to be the same, what you see has to equal what you see. And they think that it's like if you, it's like the whole thing about vegans or Christians or whatever, the people that you're allowed to smear socially, they go, spot the vegan, spot the Christian, and it's like, well, why don't you try to spot them when they don't give any evidence of, of the fact of that part of who they are, it's like the survivorship bias where people go, well, we didn't wear helmets and we were kids, we didn't wear seatbelts and we're okay, and it's like, well, yeah, you're the ones who have survived to stand up and be counted as a statistic, but statisticians also include the people who are not here because they died of head injuries or internal injuries or went through windscreens or that kind of thing, you know. So it's that sort of thing. And so I've been in hospital for suicide attempts less than half the time that I've tried to end my life. And I think, as I said a bit tearfully the other day, whether I uploaded it or not, I think I uploaded it, where I think I got a bit tearful all of a sudden about the fact that, you know, at least the slight majority of times that I've tried to end my life, nobody's known about it, and I've just sort of woken up, or, you know, whatever happens when I fail, and you know, I might be a bit crook or injured or whatever for a few days, and you know, just look after myself, I suppose, you know. And if anyone finds out, I generally just get abuse, like with Liu. So I'm not an attention seeker, and it's very funny because I've seen nephrologists since I've been here, and, you know, they seem to think that I'm pleased that my kidney function's okay. I haven't been given my DFR yet, but I don't know. I've barely had any contact with the nephrology team in Christchurch, and I was asked today if I wanted to start participating more in, you know, my appointments, which I give plenty of notice to say that I won't be attending. And I said, well, I don't really see the point, you know. It's the same with, I mean, I've been taking my renal meds on the ward because they're very expensive, and I did find out for sure today that once they're ordered for a particular patient, they can't be used for another patient. So I don't know exactly how much my meds cost, you know, like Pharmac to purchase, which is what the taxpayer pays. But it's been a very long time, because I got my transplant in 2016 and it's 2024, so it's 8 years now. So I do forget, but I did a bit of research on it, and it's like, wow, people think their meds cost $3 or $5, you know, because that's what their prescription costs. It's like, fucking hell, man, your prescription cost is not a surcharge on your medication even. It's just, you know, some pharmacists don't charge any prescription fee. Their funding doesn't come from your prescription fee, mate. And I've had medications that have cost like $30 a dose, you know, $20 a dose, $10 a dose. There was one that was $10 a dose sort of 10 years ago, and that was before my transplant. And I was taking that 3 times a day, and if you think about inflation and that kind of thing, you know, to me it's pretty stupid that they would order meds in for me. Actually, I brought my own anyway. Oh, whatever, it's late. But I am homeless, and this time the evil social worker has not... Well, last time I was in for suicide, I discharged myself. I sort of walked out on a huff and kept my cannula in. I've had cannulas in twice. them, but they take them out, and I'm only assuming it's because they probably wonder if I'm going to abscond with them. But they have sent the security guards away, because I said, look, as long as I've got somewhere to, you know, a bed and people not threatening me and got food and it's warm, you know, these are not the time, you know, I'm not emotionally suicidal. It's when people take my home from me and just treat me like a piece of shit, like. So they let the security guards go, you know. And I kept getting told different things, and I got a bit upset about that because it's just very insecure, and I'm really, really damaged by insecurity, and I genuinely can't trust anything that anybody tells me. I genuinely can't. And I still do, but I can't, and it's really awful when I get a piece of information and then it, you know, it gets revoked, and then there's no sort of acknowledgement that it's revoked. And obviously John Roach did that to me, as did every other person virtually in my life. But, you know, like, there have been 3 referrals to social workers that have been declined. And one of them was to the general sort of ward, which I think is Waipapa, and I've been moved to a different ward now. And I might as well say it's the women's hospital, because I'm probably gonna let the cat out of the bag anyway, and what are people gonna do? Come and return my possessions to me, you know? And yeah, so this time, like, there's been a more concerted effort with 2 people, a nurse and a doctor, to really try to explain to the social workers, because they're different teams, and this is the women's one, that this is actually urgent. And it's like they said, they just said to refer her to MSD, and it's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Oh my gosh, for fuck's sake. And I said, one's just refers you to the social worker, you know, like, they just refer you around in circles and they say, we know. And I know it's not their fault, but I got quite upset because there's quite a lag in my being told, and I know it's not their fault, but it doesn't help a person who's basically, you know, I did say that I'm not suicidal while I'm got a bed and shelter, you know, food and whatnot, but I feel very angry with people who tell me things and give me reason to. I mean, you know, I've got to manage my expectations, but I can only manage them with the information I've given, and I've got to make, as I said, what do they call those decisions? Informed decisions, and you know, I've said, you know, I do think that that's a medical responsibility, and I think it's a patient right to make informed decisions. And the thing is, I was saying, look, I could, you know, if it turns out that everything that's been promised to me is not true, I may as well just discharge myself now and go out and die. Because they said there's a general consensus that that is what would happen, because I'm really frail.
when a nephrologist saw me on my second, my first morning here with the team, I guess he's like a senior. He reminded me of Grant Pigeon in Wellington, who started off in Christchurch. He examined me and he found my kidney, and when I've got, really quite thin, so you can feel my kidney like it's like a big sausage. You can just sort of like, you can get your fingers quite far around it, at least part of it. It is kidney shaped, I know from ultrasounds, which is unusual. They usually turn into a ball because they put it in the front and they use up all the space. They use up the leg room. They're kidney shaped. Kidneys are kidney shaped because they have to fit in with other organs, but at the front here they don't. But anyway, he just sort of checked me out, and they always palpate the kidney, and he said, "Are you always this slender?" And I said, "No, I've lost a lot of weight." And he said, "Oh," he asked me a bit about that, and I said, I sort of had a bit of a stab, I guess, and then the registrar, who's my sort of main doctor here, she pulled the notes out pretty quickly. She's very efficient, and she said in November she was 63 kilos, and now she's 49 kilos. So it's the middle of May, end of May, getting on to the end of May. And then there was another measurement point, which I've talked about before, where I got to 53 and a half, and that was when my GP said, "Oh, you've lost 10% of your body weight." And now, and then I got down to, I got clinically weighed a few weeks ago, and I was 47, and so I put on a couple of kilos since being at John's, and that was because, as I said, when I say John's, I mean the house that he owns. It's still my lawful property. I should say 78A Sherborne. Oh, I'm linking it to John because he's the criminal here. Because I invested in food that food that I could have in the house, in the fridge, and as I've complained about before, when people kick me out, they just waste my food. I don't have a lot of money for food. And when you're starting again in a new place and you have to have that initial outlay, like, it's quite expensive, you've got to get oil and, I get not butter, but what's that stuff? My memory's really bad. I used to get Olivani, but what's it called? Nutter legs. You have to get salt and pepper, sugar. I don't kit everything out, but you have to kit a few of those basics, as starters, because it's very difficult to, even if I just get a tin of soup or something like that, I'll always put extra things like lentils and veggies and stuff in, and I have amazing cholesterol, which is just ironic because the stress that these people are putting on me, as I said to my because you get the changing of nurses, and as I said to a nurse when I did a powwow in here with her earlier today, this evening, the bullying, the endless bullying that police won't do anything about, and I'm not even talking about the ones who participate in it, the criminal harassment,
It doesn't just affect my psyche. It's shortening my lifespan. It is shortening my life. I'm going to die much younger anyway, because, as I've been told, including here, I can't recoup the condition that I've lost. I can put on weight, I can make improvements here and there, but I think my cognitive damage, the white matter changes and, the neurological changes and, to my cardiovascular system and, the efforts that I really made to be really healthy. These people have just, they are killing me. They are killing me, and it's not frequently spoken of on the ward, but it's spoken of in context frequently enough that they really can't let me leave here without somewhere to live, because discharging me, I will die. And it wouldn't happen necessarily overnight, but it happened within weeks. And I don't want to die over weeks. I want a night of hypothermia, and I've been trying to find tents and things like that. My will to keep going just sort of ebbs and flows, and sometimes I think I'll do this, I'll get a really good tent, and and I've learned that the different kinds of tents, and my beach shade is not a tent, it's a beach shade. It's got no insulation, it's got a completely open front with no fly or flap or anything. It's not a tent, it was just something I had in desperation after sleeping on a park bench, without. And I think I asked one of the cops who brought me in, because we were waiting here for 5 hours before they decided to just leave. I mean, they missed so many jobs, sitting, waiting in hospital, which is not a criticism, it's just that it was 5 hours and they ended up leaving. But I did ask one of them, and I just said, I don't know what to do about being homeless, and I was just asking those cops, I was like, what do you do when you see people sleeping on the street, well, I'm not necessarily sleeping, but clearly living on the street, what do you do, do you move them along, and if you do, where do you move them along to, considering that, well, I mean, what is it, one of the 3 laws of thermodynamics, you can either create or destroy energy, matter, whatever. I mean, people have to be somewhere. There's not enough homes for everybody. You can't disperse them to their home. They can only go somewhere else. And I said, do you guys move them along? And one of them said that he doesn't. But that seems to be a personal decision or a matter of discretion on his part. And then I said, what about a park? Can people pitch up in a council-owned park? And the offsider said she thinks so, or she doesn't see any reason why not. So I thought, well, I can do that, and then if I get one of those little kind of like coffin-like shaped tents. As I said, there are two. I realised from looking at the Kathmandu site and so forth that there are two types of tents. I used to laugh when people would advertise like camping tents, and I'm like, what other fucking kind of tent are you talking about? But it turns out there's camping tents or hiking tents, and hiking tents are obviously much lighter. Camping, you're going on a camping trip, that's a destination, you intend to live in a tent for a while. Your deck chairs and all that kind of stuff, if you can, your barbecue and whatnot. But if you're hiking, you need something, tramping, you need something light that you can put up all of a sudden if the weather goes bad. Or, I mean, the thing is also, like, your purpose is to hike, not to, you know, your purpose is not to have an amazing accommodation experience. Your purpose is to be sheltered when you need to be sheltered, and they're light and they're compact and they're easy to put up. I don't know how easy they are to put away, but they've got to be easier than that fucking piece of shit I bought. With the hoop thing that, putting back such and put a 2-year-old in a car seat. And a lot of them are on special now, so you can go in for $400. And I have other gear, much of which is at 70, you know, my lawful abode, 78A. And it's funny because even though my mother, Wendy, has said that whatever I need for accommodation she will pay for directly, rather than give me the money, I've totally proven my belief that she does it purely so she is a point of contact with the people who run the accommodation, so she can poison them against me, because she won't pay for a tent. She won't. So her thinly veiled, I mean, I don't know why she wouldn't give me the money. I mean, I guess the idea is that I'm not responsible enough with it. But when it comes to paying for what is indubitably accommodation, and it's a teach a man to fish rather than give a man a fish, because paying for accommodation was $900, as it is now, supposedly available to me. $900 worth of accommodation is 2 or 3 weeks. But a tent would last me 10 years. And she's not, she's not gonna pay for that on behalf of me. She just wouldn't even address the topic. She just changed the subject. So, and I've again started putting it to her, you just want me to die, and the reason you don't reply to me is that you don't know what to say, because you've got to tread carefully, and what can you say when you're absolutely intending to send your daughter out to die of hypothermia? It's not even, I'm not even upset. It's just frustrating. And then I think, who cares? And I've emailed a bit more to the Office of the Chief Coroner, and I've copied my mum in, and I've copied in my Aunt Janita, who had lent, as far as I know, had lent the money. This is what Wendy says, my mum. Like, I said, I don't know. I said, I addressed it to Janita. I said, look, you know, you may get a call from my nurse to try to figure out what the situation is. Is it Wendy's bullshit? Is it your bullshit? What is this? Because at the end of the day, there's an answer about whether or not that money is intended for me. And if it is intended for me, is it intended by the benefactors that Wendy dispenses it as she sees fit? Is that the idea? And if it is, what do you think of the fact that she's denying me the only realistic opportunity to stay alive in winter? 'Cause I'm not going to get her home, you see. People are camping outside of the City Mission night shelter. It's people keep talking about social services as if this is the 90s again, you know, post fucking, you know, not Wall Street, whatever it was in London, you know, early 2000s, whatever. Like, people just think you can go and see a social worker. You can't just go and see a social worker. You can't just go into a shelter. You have to be realistic, and I do think my mother's got intellectual deficiencies that, not that she's under average, but that she's overestimated, that's for sure. But she's not stupid enough or unaware. She's a self-declared news junkie, which is a stupid thing to be, considering the news is rubbish. But nonetheless, as someone who puts on a social conscience and has made a career of pretending to have a social conscience in civil service, she knows that there's not enough homes or beds or shelters for humans. It's maths, it's mathematics. It's not about not trying hard enough. It's not about looking in the right places. It's maths. There are too few beds and too many people who need them. That's just the way it is. And so people have to be creative if they want to survive. And in any other context that doesn't involve me, she would be all for that. Being resourceful. Well, she would, that's her image anyway, like she talks a lot of shit about herself. In any other situation, she would approve of me, approve of a person. Well, actually, I think she was disgusted with MSD for putting people in tents, whereas I said, it's a fucking fantastic idea. But the reason she doesn't want to give me a tent is not because she thinks it's not good enough for me. Because the alternative is the same place without a tent. She wants me to die. And I don't think anyone's going to do anything about it. But I really just want to. I want to talk to a social worker to just help nut out some way that I can somehow have some good quality camping gear that I can carry without a car. I just want to rest, you know. All I want to do is rest. I don't even really want a house. It's just another place to be kicked out of, you know. Really what I want to do is I just want to find a spot with a little coffin tent and some basic supplies and fade away, you know, without interference. I just want rest, just rest. I'm so desperate for rest. I was going to talk about other stuff. I'll probably talk about that tomorrow. It looks like I've got more time. I don't want to say that I'm not going to get discharged at some point, because they can't put me up in hospital. It's not accommodation. My suicide attempt didn't work, so from that perspective, they're more or less persuaded that my kidney is okay. But I'm very unwell, and they know that because I have chronic health problems. So from that position, sure, I shouldn't be in hospital, but I need to be I have needs. The need that I have is to be somewhere that's conducive to supporting a chronically ill person in their illness, and also back to whatever health that they can recover. I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. There are just too many evil people in this world for me to even really... Hi there.
Hi there.